So, hello everyone. Today, there are three of us: Patricia Cori, Laura Eisenhower, and me, Magenta Pixie. And the three of us, we thought we would get together. We haven't planned what we're going to talk about. We're going to probably ask each other questions and interview one another. We've just been talking off camera about the amazing energy that we feel between the three of us, and I personally feel we have a real Trinity powerhouse here between the three of us, and our guidance systems are there with us as well. So this isn't just me, Laura, and Patricia, but we have those guidance structures around us as well, and I can feel that energy, and I know that you girls can. So thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks, Magenta. Thanks, Patricia. So great to be with you guys.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited.
Excellent. Okay, so shall I kick off with the first question? Okay,
sure.
So this is a controversial one. I thought I'd dive deep, right in the deep end. I noticed, I was reading some of the comments yesterday. I uploaded the Divine Feminine that we did, the 13 of us, the Power of 13 Divine Feminine. And most of the comments were just lovely, and people were saying they love the round tables and they love to feel the energy of us women and you know, feel part of it, and that was beautiful. But there were a few comments that I was just somewhat surprised about. Some of them were very gentle and saying things like, I would like to see a woman of colour amongst you. Or someone else said, you know, why isn't there a black woman representing the black community or the ethnic minority community? Then things were getting a little bit sort of even more, well, it's all very nice, but you're all white, you know, where's the black woman? And then one person actually said, you're all a bunch of racists. And then we then went into gender, and someone was saying, Divine Feminine, we're talking about unity. You're always talking about unity. Isn't it about time you dropped the feminine now and just called it Divine Roundtable or Divine Unity Roundtable? So I did respond to some of these comments. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, right, we got race, we got gender. And as I said, one person, only one that I could see, was actually directly saying we were all racist. From my point of view regarding having a black woman with us, for a start, it's not our project. It's Paula's project, so we can suggest people, but we're not the ones bringing it together. The way I look at it is, synchronicity just brought these 13 women together. We suggested people we knew, people we'd met that we thought would fit, and everybody made a suggestion, and the 13 women came together. It's not something that we're sticking with. We can move on and do more roundtables and bring in all different kinds of women. And I would love to have women who are, you know, short, fat, blonde, dark-haired, black, Chinese, white. It makes no difference to me what those women are like. And I think to actually sit there and think, hold on a minute, we got 13 white women, this isn't going to work. We need a black woman. Does anyone know a black woman who is a spiritually aware teacher? Let's quickly get one in. That to me is outside of unity and more racist. If a black woman or a woman of color or a woman of a different ethnic minority is going to come into our circle, they will. And to me, it makes no difference what color their skin is. As for the Divine Feminine, this is a huge one. For me, you root yourself in your authenticity. So if you're a heterosexual female, you go into that Divine Feminine. You can be Divine Feminine and even if you're not heterosexual, but you root yourself in that femininity. If you are a male, you root yourself in that masculinity. That does not mean that a gender fluid person who isn't going to root themselves in a gender, that's wonderful as well. They are gender fluid. That's why they're called gender fluid. They can move between genders or not embrace any gender at all. They don't even need to see gender. And that would be right for them. And that concept is embraced by everyone. But that doesn't mean that we who choose to root ourselves in a gender are also called to move into a gender fluid situation to appease those gender fluid people. we must all root ourselves in our authenticity in order to be who we are. And I think that this is a lesson that every single human being who is balanced and positively polarized or moving in that way knows. The issue here for me is the race and the gender. It's a program, it's a hijack from the cabal, and people are falling for it, and it's in everyone's mind. I had a lady say to me yesterday, who's absolutely lovely, never ever had a racist thought in her life, actually say to me, do you think I might be racist? I've started to think that maybe I am racist. And I'm like, why do you think? She said, I haven't really even thought about it. I said, well, that to me means you're not racist, because you don't see, oh, you're black, you're white. But apparently, if you don't acknowledge black and white, that is racist. So what do you girls think?
I'd like to say something.
Go.
First of all, at the point where I choose people because I need a representation of different races at the table, to me, that is the ultimate statement of racism, as you said. I interact with people that I resonate with, and that can be any gender, and it can be any race. As Laura so beautifully said, in fact, I quoted her on Facebook, I am every race and every color in my heart and soul. You know, if now the status quo is to get people on their knees, because that's a beautiful global ritual, and I say beautiful sarcastically, that's taking place around the planet, everybody on your knees, and the excuse is race, and we know better. We know that it's obedience to the cabal, or worse. But I refuse to even, you know what, I refuse to even explain myself, to be honest with you. It's like anybody of any race comes to me and says, Patricia, I'd love to be with you. I'd love to talk on your show about anything. And if I resonate with that, it's yes. And you know, seriously. And as far as gender, I've always been a person who really loved men. And I don't mean that sexually. I've always gotten along with men. I just love them. I love women. I love men. I don't have this problem. As far as fluidity of gender, I don't know what to say about it. If that's your choice, knock yourself out. But do not constrict me to, basically you're saying, to tokenize the conversation. There must be a representative, and that's a token. If you're saying there has to be a black, a red, a green person at the table, that means you're saying, I want a token representation, which has nothing to do with the energy, the intention of whoever put the conversation together. I don't personally choose my friends by, let's see, I better have a Chinese friend, I better have a black friend, I either resonate with you or I don't. And if I do, I want to be with you, I want to talk to you. And, you know, I just refuse to bow down, period. So when people get into this shtick, which is a complete shtick at the moment, I refuse to be involved with it. I just like, I don't have to apologize for who I am. I'm sorry you're in pain. And, you know, because you feel that you're uncomfortable because there's not a token representative, you need to not watch this. End of my discussion. I hate to be so cut off-ish, but by buying into it, starting to have to explain myself, I feel that I'm fueling it, and I refuse to do it. It's like you choose to be in separation. I choose to be in unity. And that means I choose to be with people because I vibrate to them. And in the case of the 13, I was invited and I was honored to be there. I didn't have to think about that. And I really have a lot of empathy for people who are opting to be in division. But, you know, and I'll close with this. We talk about darkness and light struggling. What another dimension of this, or another aspect of it, is division or unity consciousness, right? It's the same polarity. I refuse to play this game. And if you want to be knickers in a twist about it, just knock yourself out. I'm not going to play in it. And I think the less we apologize, the less we try to justify, the faster this will diffuse.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's amazing to confront it. And it comes in waves. There was a time not too long ago, maybe last year, the same sort of issues came up. Somebody had written a book about white privilege and it just got everybody fired up. And it really started to feed the victim consciousness in an egotistical way. Like I am justified to be a victim because all of you are privileged and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, it's so foreign to me. Racism is so foreign to me that like, even to engage in the conversation, like it hurts my body. Like literally I'm communicating through an energetic that like literally doesn't make any sense to me. So it's like, either I defend myself, either I try and just help them see a perspective that could actually maybe lift them out of it. Then I realize, like, just like you said, if this is, you know, too much, you either get it or you don't. I mean, honestly, and I don't want to rattle off all the reasons why I don't feel this way or that way. But I mean, I don't feel threatened when I see a group of Black people together or a group of Chinese people together. I'm like, oh, cool. Like I can see a bunch of men together, be like, awesome, the brothers are getting together. Like, how can you not see something and see the good and beauty in it? Why drop into that vibration of something's wrong here because it should look like this? First of all, that's the personality matrix of mind control social engineering. If we're going to ascend, we're moving into the soul matrix. We're moving into something so much deeper that we as women have been in that vibration for a while, where we see the soul, we see the essence, we see the synchronicities, the resonance, the connection. And I've had friends of all cultures and races. I mean, growing up, my best friend, it just didn't matter. It never mattered. And I just really don't understand. And I don't know why they're putting like I can see the societal engineering part of it, but then, you know, if we start to open up that can of worms, then we could talk about all the Holocausts that have happened to all sorts of races all throughout history, starting from, well, galactic wars, but I mean the root races of Lemuria, you know, the Atlantean cataclysms, and how they're trying to pit us as root races against each other, which I talked about in the last show. So there's a lot of us that are really working on the integration, the unity consciousness, and bringing all this together. And so to look at women who have devoted their lives to integrating this, to pulling it together, it's like you're going after the wrong people, you know. And I'm sorry it appears a certain way to you, but it doesn't appear that way to me when I notice maybe a group together that might not have a certain level of diversity. It does not threaten me. It does not feel racist. It doesn't feel exclusive. Sometimes people just feel comfortable for whatever reason. It's like, would they want that done to them? Say they're all in a band, like a reggae band. I mean, it's like, oh, you need to have your token white person. It's like, I can't even imagine. Like, I love diversity. I love seeing even cultures come together. I mean, look at families and, you know, traditions. I mean, some are based in the social engineering, but it's really unfortunate because this is the last thing that we need right now. I feel like it creates fractures. I feel like dark entities feed on it. And it's like spiritual bypassing if you don't give it attention. Violence is silence if you're a white person. It's like, oh, you don't want to even get me going then if you I mean, it's probably better off I remain quiet, because it's not necessarily coming from anger, any blame to a particular person. But if people don't start to understand, you know, what they're, you know, attempting to do, and we can't just like come together and get over this stuff, then we're not in our soul at all. We are limiting ourselves to a superficiality that it's really like a victim, like a competition. And so I don't like being pulled into that energy of like, you want to know what my path has been? No, it hasn't been privilege. And whatever privilege I have for my skin color, I've done everything I can possibly do to turn that into service to humanity, and to leverage any extra blessings I have for being white to turn it into being of service to humanity. Why does that deserve attack? And, you know, I walked away from family stuff. You know, I single parented. I was on welfare and food stamps, and I worked minimum wage. I cleaned toilets. I cleaned hotels. It's like, you don't even want to begin to know. And I almost got dragged off planet. It's like, do we really have to change, like, trade victim stories? Because I don't feel like a victim. I feel like a warrior, and I feel like a unifier. And I love the diversity of races. I love, you know, and I don't want to even like go there, like acting like I have to express why I love Black people so much. But first of all, I think my great-great-grandmother was African-American or Black. I have it in my blood. Like, I'm a drummer. I used to have dreadlock. I mean, it's just like, but sorry, I've got pasty white skin that gets easily sunburned. I'd much prefer your skin. It's like, really, do we have to have these kind of dialogues? It's just, you know, I mean, I just feel we're in such a greater time of love and the need to connect that it's heartbreaking, because my natural inclination is to love, and it's painful to have these things thrown, but at the same time, I know it's not my truth, so it doesn't really penetrate. But it's the same thing of going to the store. Like, I feel like, you know, just even going to talk to whoever's at the checkout with a mask on, You know, it's like you can tell that the energies are so strong on the planet right now to change, to share codes, to share like light codes and frequencies and unity vibes to really build upon something that the planet needs, and to see these barriers. It's like we're chemtrailing our own faces. It's like buffering the true essence of what could be shared right now. All this control. So, I mean, if we were to shift into my question, it's kind of going into that, like, I mean, it's such a powerful time that everything that we're seeing is to create that reversal, because they thrive on reversals. When we need to come together, we're being forced to separate. When we need to speak our truth, we're being masked. When we need to unify, we're being sunk down into, you know, race wars. And this white privilege thing, like there's nothing you can do or say without having some dysfunction connected to you. You know, if you speak, then you're not saying the right thing. If you don't speak, then you're violent. And
but you know what, Laura? There's also, it's not about not speaking, it's about not letting it in anymore. Because once you get into a defensive posture for who you are, what you believe in, what you represent, you're cooked.
Well, they're telling you what to say, right? So what they would want you to say is bow down and be guilty. Yes, you are privileged, and you need to speak up and claim that for us to leave you alone. Because whatever we are saying, it's not good enough.
Yeah, and if we don't
speak,
and
it never will be enough.
I only found this out last night. A friend sent me this whole list of things that is seen as racist and white privilege. And
the graph, that picture?
Yeah, and I did not know that white silence is a thing. So if you don't speak, you're racist. And I think what they're missing, I mean, the kabball aren't missing this because this is a deliberate program, as I said, but the people who are falling for this, what they're missing is those in the fifth dimension, us three here, we have done this work already years and years ago. For me, personally, I struggled not with racism, but with anti-racism. I was so against racism. I lived in London as a kid, and as a young child, my best friend from the age of about 2 was a black girl. I absolutely adored her. I would copy her hair color, her hair style in little plaits. I would copy the clothes she wore. I adored her so much. And we left London at the age of 10, when I was 10, and came down to the southern area of the UK, which is a white area. There are hardly any ethnic minorities and black people here. When we moved here at the age of 10, and I remember looking around at my new school and my drama clubs, and I'm thinking, where are the black children? I missed my black friends so much. It was completely normal in my school to have black children and white children. We were completely a mix. There were 50% black children in the school and all different races. And that was to me normal. I'd grown up with it. So when I came to a white area, I was in pain and suffering and missing them. And I thought it was awful that there were no black children here. And when I remember speaking to my other friends, they'd grown up in this area. So to them, it was not something that they saw. And I struggled with that. And when I went into doing a counseling course, I remember one of the things was, are you racist or are you anti-racist? And if you're either of these, you need to work on yourself. And I realized I fell into the category of anti-racism because it made me angry when anyone was racist, because I felt very, very protective over the black community because they were my friends and I missed them so much. Then as I got older and I dealt with all of that, I realized, and this is the big thing here, we have all had past lives as different races. I have been an individual who is not white, and I have been persecuted, and I have been through all those same things that the black community are talking about. I've been through that in my past lives. So this is not a third dimensional issue. This is a multi-dimensional issue. And when we come to the point of talking about this as a spiritual teacher, we've done the work. We've already integrated all of this. So when we come together as 13 women, it isn't in our heads. And it's not because we're colorblind or because we have white silence. We've already integrated any issues that have occurred within our own reality, because that is what you do when you take a spiritual path.
Yeah, I can totally relate to your childhood and just feeling, actually when I moved to the Washington DC area and it was mostly white people, I was really like depressed, and I couldn't join in with the cliques. I couldn't join in with the materialism. I couldn't join in with certain things, but I don't cast that upon all white people. So, I mean, it's like, I can have my issues with people that seem to be the ones they're talking about that have privilege, but I don't want to be putting a whole race in that projection. And I think it's absolutely inappropriate. So anyway, I just had to add that.
And I just want to say that again, the more we allow the victim consciousness rage to seep in, the more we perpetuate it. So personally speaking, you know, I am never going to justify who I am to anyone. I am who I am. I am that I am. And I know who I am, and I know what my values are. And if somebody has decided to call me a racist because I don't have a collection of races around my table, then they need to go, because there's no talking to these people. They want a war. They want the hatred. They want the division. And, you know, I don't want to play.
No.
So, you know, bless them. I hope they get better. And I hope that, you know, if they're going to go through a few more lifetimes, I hope that they're able to get through this program and hopefully realize it, because I do believe this is cyclical, and I do believe this is going to turn on them. And it's going to be pretty hard when it does. And, you know, the
kabball
people will be hopefully around to help them through it, but not in the attack zone, the accusatory zone. I have no space for it. It's not allowed.
You mean
That's
it will turn around and sort of come back on the cabal, the instigators?
Yeah.
Those...
Look at, for example, the drama of, I have to laugh. Sorry, at Nancy Pelosi and the take a knee drama that they did, and how that turned around. First of all, wearing ancient sacred African scarves, doing the ritual, which was clearly not about taking a knee for Black Lives Matter, but much deeper. And, you know, the backlash of that tokenism and that false, whatever you want to call it, loyalty, has already backlashed big time on them. And that's what we're going to see, you know, this extreme dysfunctional personalities that are going to go through this extreme manifestation of this program, and eventually it has to burn itself out. So there are the people that are thinking, oh my God, we're heading to total destruction. And, you know, personally, I see it as, okay, burn it on out, knock your lights out, but you're not going to do it with me.
Yeah.
Well, and when you burn it all out and you come back around, you know, let's sit down together and bake bread.
Well, before we move to Laura's question, in response to what you said, what they're trying to present there is an enacting out of atoning for the sins of the ancestors. So white people are to atone for the sins of their ancestors. Again, this work, I mean, it may be okay for some of those people. Maybe it's working for them to do that. But those in the spiritual field have been through this journey. And the way to atone for the sins of the ancestors, if you like, it's a personal work that you come to when you follow a spiritual path and take a spiritual path in life. And this is to do with the connection of the ancestors. And the only way that you are actually responsible for the sins of the ancestors is if you are repeating those sins, those
exactly
atrocities. The code comes down into your matrix and you hold it. It's come right down all your ancestors, and you continue to perpetuate it. When you stop doing that, when you change your way of thinking and you thus change your behavior, you then change the entire ancestral code. And spiritually aware individuals, both men, both women, gender fluid, transgender, black, white, whatever, anyone in the fifth dimension, which is a diverse field of consciousness holding everyone, doesn't matter what you look like, you are in that field when you do this work spiritually, and you will have already gone through this process. So
and then what about the question of, how about if my ancestors were, like you said, another race, another gender? How about in a past life if I was?
Exactly.
How about if the accusing person was a white supremacist in another civilization in their own past lives, or have ancestors? This
Exactly.
ridiculous program that we have to be guilty of the ancestors, to me is it's I don't want to say it's ludicrous because I don't want to offend, but I don't hold guilt in my own life. I make mistakes. I try to fix them. I try to do better. I apologize where I can, but I don't hold guilt. It is the worst emotion because
we've
it's
done the work.
completely.
Anyone in that fifth dimensional way of thinking has done that work before they come to the point of gathering together as 13 empowered women and speaking together. They wouldn't come to that point if they hadn't done the work. It's nothing to do with the color of their skin. So,
Yeah, and this is kind of where oh, sorry, keep going.
no, that was it. I was going to say, Laura, you asked.
Oh yeah, just to add to that, I mean, this is where the bifurcation has to happen. I can't exist in that energy. I cannot exist in that energy. It is not my truth. It doesn't make any sense to me. We are multidimensional beings. We have lived many, many lifetimes. Many, many races have been persecuted. This might be the most recent trauma or memory, though, in race, as far as races are concerned. But we're learning to deprogram as a human race. We're learning that these behaviors have been taught if they even exist. And we have to look at the individual and their intent. They need to go, deeper themselves. It's like they're accusing somebody of being racist, but they're not even opening the door beyond your skin. They're basically projecting the very thing that they want to stop.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part, because it's like, you're not even giving me the chance. You're not even allowing my words of love. You're actually stopping yourself from getting to know me because of my skin color. And you're asking me to address the whole concept of racism, which is, again, foreign. So, this is exactly what they want to see. And it doesn't mean that my heart doesn't go out to people's traumas. The feminine has been through a ton, but I don't blame men for it. It's a patriarchal programming, and it's impacted them too. They went off to war and got, massacred in the fields. Women have been persecuted, didn't matter what color, and we got modern day slavery we need to address. And I know they're like, oh, well, that's another form of bypassing, saying to focus on this instead, and like, this doesn't matter. It's like, of course it matters, but we're dealing with modern day slavery. We're dealing with children being raped and tortured. And these are the people that are actually behind these movements. So whatever infection, whatever virus people are gravitating towards that is pitting them against each other, the very people behind it are doing the sickest of crimes against humanity with children, right? Doesn't mean that the other traumas aren't important, but we have to come together as a human race and put an end to the modern day slavery, which is on a level that is horrific to begin to process. But to me, this is a diversion and distraction to get us like entangled in something that is absolutely pulling us away from being the guardians and protectors of these children and people that are being human trafficked.
And Laura, you said they're doing the very thing they want to stop, but I don't think they're doing what they want to stop. They want to perpetuate the problem, not stop it.
I mean, like a person who might not give us the time of day and look at us like a group of women that are racist. It's like, you didn't even probably hear a word we said then. All you're doing is seeing, and then you're being all triggered about color. It's like, you just did that to us then. So
right,
how
but what I'm saying is they don't really want to stop.
They don't want to heal, no.
They want to perpetuate it and create more division. And
that's why the boundary has to be there. And I agree with you. Yeah.
The boundary has to be there. I've been talking to you about it even on Facebook, but it's like, I am a sovereign being. You are welcome if you come in love and the highest intention. If you don't, sorry, I just don't have any room for it. And if that makes me a racist or whatever, fine.
The cabal wants to perpetuate it, not the black community that have been triggered by this issue. It isn't those individuals, it's those that are within the cabal, those that are paid by the cabal, those that are in that structure. And it's very difficult for people to understand that when many of them don't even believe in the cabal. They think the cabal is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I would like to also add here that I'm seeing some fabulous Black leaders coming out, speaking out against the concept of white supremacy.
Oh yeah, most of my Black friends are like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're not, if you attack white supremacy, what you're trying to replace it with Black supremacy, we're still not talking about equality. You're not getting the memo here.
It's just like feminism is not going to take over the masculine. It's about balance and harmony. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying that's what I mean by the fifth dimensional consciousness. the people on this planet in that consciousness are fully diverse in every way. So you've got these individuals in that consciousness in truth, and then you have the cabal and those that are following the programs. And it's very difficult for those that are not aware of this darker plan to understand who is who. I had a friend say to me yesterday, who is a deeply spiritually aware person, and absolutely has all the tools needed to be a world planetary way shower, but chooses to stay in the background and not out there in front of the camera like many starseeds do. This person doesn't want to actually comment on the whole race thing, because like us, it simply is not in this person's head at all. And he put out a status about unity, and was attacked for being racist. And he said, I never thought I'd see the day when unity consciousness is seen as racist. And I said, the cabal are wanting to bring the light workers down as well.
That's it.
Everyone, it's like, you three women, we want to shut you up, and we will do whatever it takes to shut you up. And we have to acknowledge that and understand it, but then come into our power and say, we will continue to speak the truth, no matter what you do, no matter how many people come at us or attack us. We will continue to stand strong within that truth, because that is why we are here. And we have a team of light beings, multidimensional light beings, both physical and non-physical, behind us. So we need to talk about these issues, but like you said, like you've both said, we don't allow ourselves to be, to actually be caught up in this. We observe this issue and we discuss this issue, because what is next? Is it gender? Are they going to pit man against woman? Is it going to be...
They've already done that one.
Well, they have, but not at the extreme.
There'll be another wave of it, I bet.
That's what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not to mention,
it's so distorted.
Not to mention adults against children, because now they're going to, what is that called?
Oh, they're going against their parents. They're being encouraged to hate their parents.
I mean, the sexualization of the children and the normalization of pedophilia.
Yeah, that's all coming down the line.
Again, I really want to say this very clearly, especially to everyone that's listening. There is all manner of attack if you stand in your truth. And this is show and tell time. If you yield to what makes everybody feel more comfortable, you aren't in your truth. And when you're not in your truth, your shields are down and things only seem to multiply to the intent of the wonders of the attacker. So when you stand in that truth and you hold that straightforward balance, and you allow love, and you allow the highest intention, and you allow argument, I'm fine with that. But as everybody who comes near me on any social media knows, if they dare to attack my ethics, my person, my life, there's a little button, it's called block their history. And I don't justify that in my mind, that that's one person maybe I should have tried to help. No, because that person isn't trying to help me. And the idea of dialogue is that we're trying to work this out together. When the other side is not trying to work it out, but rather to perpetuate suffering, perpetuate division, I have no space for it, and therefore I don't acknowledge it. And it's important that we three and other people who are out there also do this for the people who come to our information, come to our social media, because I have so many people who say, I feel safe on your page. I feel safe in your threads because I keep putting this out. Anybody who dares attack anyone, me or anyone else, will be immediately deleted. And it's been pretty cleaned up.
Yeah, I did a post just sort of like saying sorry, but just sorry that y'all are having a problem with me. Sorry, we all don't think the same. And sorry is not my favorite word, but it was like I had just woken up and just felt like, really overwhelmed. And a few people were like, well, you should be sorry. And I hope that's a real genuine apology. Block. It's like, I don't even.
Are you kidding?
I have over 400 people on my block list. And this sort of like authoritarian, I won't even go there because I know we're going to shift to another question, but man, it's just like, no. Yeah. My heart did go out to a few people. I tried to work some things out and I haven't blocked them, but I just put the pages on privacy so I wouldn't get the notifications. If it pops up and it gets worse, then maybe I'll remove those people because it wasn't that bad. But the general atmosphere on social media is very, very much, you know, a breeding ground to archonic, you know, parasites. They just want to create loosh, anything that they can possibly do to create, you know, something to feed on, something, you know, to divide us against each other. I mean, we have the sacred union divine template of the masculine and feminine, and beyond gender, you know, the flow of energy of our right and left. And yeah, disrupting that could potentially, you know, pit the masculine and feminine, but I don't think that's going to work so well. But yeah, I mean, this is the huge growth period that humanity's in. And I think a lot of people will yank themselves out of it. But they got to own their own. Like, if you have guilt and you're struggling with this, that is yours. Don't project that on a full race of people. Exactly. Don't project that on, you know, if you have something to work on, I totally respect that. But, you know, what I'm working on in my own self is not your problem. Yeah, if I was assaulted by a man and I'm working on it, it's not every man's problem to have to carry that burden. It's just common sense to me, but I'm not trying to belittle anybody. It's just, but anyway, should we?
Yes, move on to your question, Laura.
Okay. So we were talking before we got on camera about some of the things going on in the UK, and I know it's happening all over the world. I just talked to some clients who said to me, I'm not going to be able to get back to work in the fall without a COVID test and without wearing a mask. But then we see all this stuff in the news saying that these things aren't as threatening as we thought that they were, that there's no mandatory vaccinations. And I guess it has to do with the governors and the mayors. But like, what are you guys seeing right now as far as like what we're up against? And just maybe what you guys are experiencing in your area, and just, yeah, where you feel this is all going. In whatever way you feel like answering, because it's a multi-level thing. There's what we do as humans and how we react, and then there's this governmental structure that surrounds certain areas a little bit more intensely than others. But do you think that's a good question to bring in, or what?
Yeah,
may I answer?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. That's a really important question, and I think everybody is concerned with it right now. So I think we know, first of all, I don't know what kind of elections are going on in the United States, but clearly a lot of these despotic governors and mayors need to go, because what's happened is you have the agenda, and then, you know, here in Europe we have the European agenda, because, you know, the way that this has unfolded on my island is ludicrous. 5 cases out of nowhere, no ships, no planes coming in, still have 5 cases 7 weeks later. And all of the agenda put in, and then you know, a program of when you can step out, when you can wear laid out in uniform as per the EEC regulations. So there's no individual countries here. But what's happening in America, from what one can see, is that each state has its own Freudian slip. Trump has been very careful not to override the governors and therefore be accused of despotism, whatever. But clearly they're going nuts. If you see the pictures of some of these people, you can actually see the possession. I mean, they are possessed. They are completely possessed. Yeah. I better not name any names so that we don't get the video immediately removed, but you know who they are. They have demonic eyes. They have insanity written all over them, and they keep making these ridiculous, you gotta laugh, these ridiculous laws. One of my favorites is you cannot sit on the dry sand, but you can walk on the wet sand, but you can't go in the water. So, you know, ... make sure you get a helicopter to lift you over the dry sand, deposit you on the wet sand, run along, and then get picked up and go back. You know, and it's like a comic movie. It's like a comic science fiction movie. And how I see this playing out, first of all, is people just getting tired of it, as the fear diminishes and people start to see it for what it is. Everything has a curve. We're starting to see the curve. And I'm not talking about the curve that they talk about of the virus starting to curve because of fading out, et cetera, but the social consciousness curve, where people are starting to see, first of all, how this so quickly transmuted into rioting across the world. And I don't know if I'm sure you're aware of the fact that the Antifada has now got a complete neighborhood in Seattle that's theirs. They own it. The police they push the police out. It's like a 6-city block neighborhood that they're calling, it's not the United States. No United States laws apply there. Are you aware of this? Yeah. in Seattle. And so I think that the curve here is that people are to hear with the rules and start to break them. And then the initial stages of this rioting and the Black Lives Matter, it's constantly mutating. It's every day, it's mutating. And when people have their bags full, it's going to disappear. Whether or not we're going to see a resurgence of another level of the virus or not, it'll be less effective no matter how much more virile they try to make it, because people already got the tape. It's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, and a lot of people have moved a lot of energy, or because we can't allow something in to really compromise us unless there's a growth that can come from it. And sometimes the growth is stunted by the mind control part of it, but our bodies and our consciousness is so capable of transmuting things that I think the collective consciousness, or it's sort of like a spiritual immunity response is getting stronger. So whatever they try and do, it's like you said, been there, done that. We're more guarded and shielded now.
Yeah, and when you see it, because as it looks more and more ludicrous, people respond to it with more and more awareness. It's like, from the first days of the rioting and, every day that goes by, I mean, these guys taking over 6 city blocks and growing in Seattle, which is a pretty progressive city, peace-loving city. It's a war zone. And, people, the ones even that are still wearing the mask, are going to have their bags full. And it's going to turn. Just like the Democratic behaviors are turning on them. The Nancy Pelosi episode turned on her. The tearing up the documents, the speech when in the House of Representatives when Trump talked, that turned on her. She wants it to be removed, the video to be removed. And, I think that this experience of extreme, abhorrent behavior, after a while, people start to get numb to it and transmute it. I don't think we're going to be in this aggravated situation much longer. I don't.
Well, in the UK here, what I'm seeing is different businesses, different employers seem to be going with rules slightly differently. So I've got quite a few friends, people I know, that are having to take a test when they resume work. However, if they refuse to take the test, they either can't go back to work. They have to sign a form to say that it's given to them as a choice. You can choose to take a test or not. You sign the form to say you can't, and then you can't go back to work. This is only just starting, though, because many businesses haven't quite gone back to work yet. I do have a lot of friends who are self-employed, so obviously there'll be different situations there because they work for themselves. I don't think things have kicked in fully when it comes to the negative plan here. I think it's still what I'm seeing is something very similar to what you said, Patricia, but I see this as the negative and the positive are merging and merged all the time. It's like, the dark strategy, they take one step, and the guys of positivity and light, they take their step. So then the dark think, okay, what should we do now? So they've got an idea of what their plan is, and they've got all these little tricks up their sleeve, but so has the light. They are responding, and they have, it's not tricks up their sleeve, but with them, it's antidotes and reactions. So everything is flipping and backfiring, but then it's looking scary again. But here in the UK, we do have some ridiculous, rules. I mean, masks, you don't have to wear them unless you're on public transport. So any public transport, including a taxi, a cab, you would have to wear your mask. Some businesses are asking for masks, but that depends on the employer of the business. For example, we haven't got dentists back to work yet, and you couldn't wear a mask in the dentist, but medical jobs like the chiropodist, or having your nails done, or the hairdressers, they haven't gone back to work yet either, but probably many will ask for masks. But none of this is mandatory at this point. Now, I did actually hear from someone I know locally who overheard a conversation. I know this person is genuine, so I know this is really sort of third hand, but this person I know, one of her neighbours is a teacher at the school, and she overheard her, as everyone's in their garden, because if you want to entertain family, you have to go in the garden You're allowed to now see your family in the garden in the UK, in England. Slightly different rules in other areas of the UK. They're only allowed to drive 5 miles, whereas we can drive as far as we like in England. But she overheard a conversation and the teacher was saying to her family member, social distancing at the school with the little ones, because it's the little ones that have gone back, they're 4 and 5, it's absolutely impossible. No matter what they do, it's just not working. The 4 and 5 year old kids, they just don't understand it. And she actually said the only way we're going to get all the children back and we're going to be able to resume any kind of normal schooling is when everyone has a vaccine.
Except that, you know, Fauci is now saying we're not saying that we're sure that the vaccine that we don't have yet,
but that's
or at least that we're saying we don't have yet.
That's a problem. That's confusion. That's gaslighting. We all know they've had a vaccine the entire time.
They had the vaccine first, then they invented the disease.
Yeah, I think they probably did it together. But you know, so that this is a game that they're playing. They're judging the reaction of the public, and they want the same thing across the world globally, but they're trying to bring in slightly different rules in all these different countries and different areas so that we have the illusion that we're each independent and that, you know, the US and the UK are completely different and Europe is completely different and all these other countries, Australia, they are totally independent countries, and whilst they've got their own governments, the kabball are wanting to control everything globally. In fact, I saw an article the other day, one of the I'm not sure what organization this person was from, because I do actually look at these articles and just skim past them because, you know, I don't really want to read them all, but they did say the only way that we are going to deal with the COVID-19 on a global scale is to have a one world government. So,
well, you know, the UN's website is now unnwo.org.
Yeah,
they're they're boldly and unabashedly declaring themselves. But I just want to insert something, and I'll yield to you, Laura. And that is that we must bring into the conversation the fact that we do have white hats fighting to bring these guys down. I believe that as much as I breathe. So in this equation of what's unfolding, what could be coming, let's remember that we are taking out, I think Trump just announced that they've taken down 1,500 top pedophiles. We have the Flynn case, we have the Obama case, which is very convenient.
And Hillary.
The whole Black Lives Matter thing happens when that is unfolding. And
Hillary
we have an election in 5 months, right?
That's what I mean by the positive and negative being intertwined. It's like, we're moving, they make their step, we then move in ours as an antidote. The light are providing antidotes because they're not attackers. They're neutralizing.
What it appears to me, call me an optimist, is that the New World Order, the Kabbalists are like, more, and Trump and the team are just like this steady bulldozer. And they're like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And
the other thing
I feel that there is this, the light is just rolling forward like I've never seen it before in this lifetime. Pushing forward, to the people that are listening that might be saying, oh, she's a Trump supporter. Get it out of your mind and think instead of what I'm talking about, which is the forces of light, which I happen to believe Trump is at the helm. And I hope I'm right.
We can go to the whole Trump thing. I just wanted to say the other thing, because Laura was asking about, our areas. In the UK, sex is illegal. I don't mean fully. If you live with someone, if you live with your partner, that's fine. But if you do not live with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or if you just want to, have casual sex or whatever anyone wants to do in their life, that is illegal now because you're not allowed to go in someone's house. If you go into someone's house, you can both be arrested. So if I go into my daughter's house, then both myself and my daughter would both be arrested, let's say. If a couple who've been dating for several months or years want to be intimate with one another and they don't live in the same house, they are not allowed to, because they're not allowed to break the 2-meter distancing rule, and you are not allowed to stay overnight anywhere. They've just brought in a new sort of guideline or rule where if you live alone, you are now allowed to join a bubble. So a bubble is another family. So if you live alone, so if you're a man living alone and your girlfriend lives alone, you can now go to her house and stay overnight, and you know, you'd be able to be intimate with her. But if you have been dating someone but you don't live alone and neither do they, then you're not allowed to touch or kiss or have sex. It's illegal, and you know, you'll be arrested for it. 1984.
Did this by any chance come into play right after Boris met with the Gateses?
So,
because it really plays to the depopulation agenda, doesn't it?
yeah, it's kind of I've got a police siren outside my window. Don't know if you can hear it. Synchronicity.
Are you allowed to talk on the
at the same time? Maybe slightly before. I mean, obviously we know that the whole sort of meeting would have taken place before. You know, when it comes to their communication, anyway. I'm not sure if it's exactly as it seems. I feel that, you know, when it comes to white hats and black hats, I've spoken before about Boris, and I feel that he's a grey hat. Sometimes his hat looks fairly pale grey. Sometimes it looks a darker grey. I'm not sure what side Boris is playing. I find him much more difficult to read because he's not fixed in one camp. He is definitely spouting forth the kabball agenda, but I wouldn't 100% place him in one camp or another. But you know, we're talking about not saying names. You were saying earlier about how you can see some of these individuals are possessed. So changing someone's name around to the last letter of their surname and switching it over. So I'm talking about Hat Mancock rather than his name. You can see that in him. This possession, this whatever you want to call it, dark entity, kabball, hive mind, Borg AI influence in his matrix, or reptilian, whatever you want to say, and he has it stronger than anyone else in the UK government that I have seen as yet. So when it comes to the UK government, Boris might be the Prime Minister, but the person who has the most influence from the kabball, the person who's more higher up in the hierarchical structure and has a stronger kabball bloodline, is Hat Mancock, to the point where I can't look at him for very long. I have to shield myself massively to be able to listen to him. And what I found really interesting, once I was listening to him on daytime TV, and he was talking to Holly Willoughby, who is a really bubbly blonde presenter in the UK, and she's really sweet, and she's always giggling and everybody loves her, and she's asking him, you know, questions about the social distancing rules and everything, and he's looking at her, and you wouldn't be able to tell if you don't have that psychic, clairvoyant, empathic ability. But I'm telling you now, he absolutely detested her because she's so light and fluffy and sweet and loving and kind. He detested it. I mean, it was just to watch it. I'm like, you know, he hates us all, but he hates her more than ever because she's so lovely and light and sweet. And, you know, he was hiding it. You couldn't see it in his face. But obviously, when you're empathic and you're intuitive, and you can see, I could feel it and see it. And I thought, my goodness me, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing that's coming up is just that whole, the rules are so ridiculous that it basically goes so against just any level of, I guess the word common sense and yes, people are getting sick of it, but it's like for the AI to assimilate humans and to separate them from their soul matrix, they have to be so disempowered and so controlled and so like riled up in fear and anxiety and compliant and obedient that yeah, I mean, and it's to be able to actually achieve the AI assimilation, because in our higher selves, in our unity consciousness, AI can't really impact us. Parasitic forces, archons, and dark agendas cannot penetrate that field. And that's what's the hardest thing to watch is, even though people are tired of it, nobody likes it. We're seeing uprising on the streets about, you know, a situation that happened, which is horrific. And there should be, you know, a big reaction like it got in the States of a man being killed by a cop, of course. But, and there has been protests about not wearing a mask and, you know, some of the ridiculousness of it. But yeah, it just seems like the more we're coming together in groups without the infection and virus being a part of why we're coming together, but really, you know, being able to see it and call it out and yeah, allow, like, you know, greater bonds of, you know, love to grow. I mean, we won't be able to be assimilated into AI, and these things won't be able to work out because we do have light forces helping us on the planet, but we have to locate those light forces within ourselves so that it can, you know, create that relationship and begin to manifest. And so that Antifa and, you know, all this, you know, different stuff, where there's peaceful protest, where the true nature of man or humanity and woman can come together and say, this isn't right, but we will do it in a harmonious way. Yeah, most of the stuff that's making things, you know, really difficult is what gets introduced to create the chaos, to then create even more of an infection so that they can go to this next level because of that silent consent. And we've been talking a lot about consent, that unconscious consent that happens with how people are like feeding into all of it, you know. So hearing what you guys have to say, it's like, I mean, these pedophile rings and people in positions of power, I mean, it's so much more than people can begin to like comprehend. And I don't know if it's something, you can't really cure it. You can't fully make it go away, but you can move into a dimension where they can't get you. I mean, what are your thoughts? I can't hear you.
I truly believe that I'm always in a dimension where nothing can get me. I live, that's
Right,
how I live my
feel
life.
that way too about me, but yeah, but yeah.
How I feel personally is my mission. One of my missions is to help people understand how to do that, how to be so clear in their conviction that they are sovereign and that nothing is going to be able to get in, so that this power, this lighthouse effect is not a bunch of individuals, psychics, way showers, etc., but that we are able to involve, first of all, help people understand that by not engaging, they are not being silent, they are not allowing. I hope that's what I'm saying makes sense to you both. And from there, yeah, I just think that by not engaging, we don't fuel this negativity. And by not
maybe we can engage
it
without
feeds on that. It wants you to apologize. It wants you to be sorry. It wants you to be guilty. It wants you to be explaining why there's this is not there and this is not there. And you know, if you're
the only reason I said it was because I felt like people wanted, that's what they want, right? So it's like, okay, well, here, I'll do it, but guess what? I'm not sorry for being me, and I'm not going to change. But yeah.
Yeah. And who would want you to change, Laura? Who would want you to change?
Well, this is
which I saw a lot of outpouring from people who said that just that when you put that up there, and people were saying, we love you just like this. And so, you know, that beautiful validation is, this could come in, come on in, let's do this. Let's just raise the frequency for everyone and stop trying so hard to fight off this stuff. It's just,
it's another day at the office. It's always been this way. I was maybe a little bit more sensitive to it because I'm like, seriously, all of this all over again. And I've stayed relatively balanced, and you know, nobody really knows the tone behind the posts anyway. It's just kind of like,
yeah, I understand. I'm talking about everyone, because
raising people up to that vibration. Yep.
I think that everybody who's listening to this video in some way or another is dealing with this problem. So I'm speaking to the bigger group of people.
I figured I can just definitely relate to, yep.
People are asking all the time, how do you put up with it, Patricia? I'm losing friends, my family won't speak to me, etc. And, you know, it is a big concern for everyone at this time. And so I'm speaking to everyone, and my message is, don't allow it. Simply don't allow it. Don't apologize. Don't be on the defensive. Just put up that gate. When you are prepared to be civilized, speak to me as an equal, you know, my gate will open again. Until that moment, sorry, I have better things to do than engage with your rage. I think we have to do that. I think it's really vital right now that we understand that that is a big moment for us. A very important aspect of what we're going through right now is that we, let's call ourselves way showers, are able to help people understand that. Don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Magenta.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to them wanting us to change, which is what they want, even if it's not a cabal individual, if it's somebody who's just buying into the false narrative, the only way they can feel better is by hearing you say what they want you to say. And it's not that you're being awkward or that you won't change. You can't change when you come into a paradigm of knowing. It isn't a belief anymore. You're simply in alignment with truth, and you know truth. But when it comes to that program, that false narrative coming to the way showers, if you like, it's going to come to the way showers, the starseeds, the light workers. It's easy to deal with, or easier, when it's on social media. And as you say, you can just block and delete the person. But this is coming into people's lives, in families, the individuals you love that you don't want to argue with. And I know so many families who fell out over the virus thing and the lockdown thing, but massively more over the race war thing. And these are predominantly, because I live in a white area, it's white people falling out with one another, accusing one another of being racist, when the majority of them are all white people anyway in this area. And I've seen this happen again and again with families. And when it comes to you from a loved one and you are a way shower, you then have to find a way to think, right, so how am I going to not make this person angry? Because when that person's caught in that way of thinking, that false narrative, they're all one mind. It's all the hive mind. It's the cabal speaking, just like in the Matrix film. They're all Agent Smith. You know,
right.
that matrix, that aspect of the matrix has just come into them, and it can be your own son, your own daughter, your own brother, your own sister, your mom, your dad, your best friend. So
right, but you can still create those boundaries. I mean, you can sit down with your family and say, one thing we can't do is argue about these issues, because we love each other.
But even that may not work sometimes, depending on the.
Well, then you have to let them go.
You do, but I think it is about navigating and thinking, how can I try to come to some kind of agreement with this person without compromising my own integrity and authenticity and pretending to believe something that I don't. So
well, let me give you an example. I have a relative who said, so tell me, you don't believe all this conspiracy stuff, do you? I said, well, you'd have to define what that is. And you already know that I'm a conspiracy realist for decades. So the conversation is starting off with an accusation. And he said, well, I mean, you know, let's talk about this ass. And he was talking about the Trump. And I said, okay, here's what we can't do. We can't have a conversation where you feel superior to me and you want to have an argument, because if we do, we're going to fight. And I love you. Yeah. Your family. Exactly. So I suggest that we make a commitment, a contract, that we don't discuss this, so that we know we disagree, but we don't know who's right yet. Okay.
Yes, I kind of say the same.
Right. It may play out that you're right, and it probably doesn't matter anyway, as long as we shield each other from ending up hating each other over something that we have no effect on changing anyway. Will you join me in making that contract? Yes. Because otherwise, you know, inevitably it's going to destroy families, yeah. You just can't sit down at the table and discuss it.
Which is what they want. It's the intention behind the words. You know, the words sometimes fall short. I mean, words, the intention behind the words can change the frequency of how they're delivered. Sorry, go ahead, Magenta.
No, I was going to
say, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to say for you to talk, because you were, I wondered if you wanted to say anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a fine line. And I think we learn based on, I mean, in a group setting, when you're speaking to a big group of people, you're going to get a mixed bag. Some are going to like it, some aren't. But when you're dealing with friends and family, it's a really, really tough one. The boundaries are really important. Saying loving things to leave it on a good note so that person's not having the last memory of you being angry or combative. Like they really see, oh wow, she's taking the higher road. Wow, you know, she's not sinking down to this level. That's actually, you know, because I always think truth doesn't have cruelty. Truth isn't competitive. Truth stands on its own. It doesn't need to fight for itself. Truth is in a place of acceptance. It's one of the higher dimensional levels that we can attain, but it's not about truth being something that like takes away somebody else's, right? So I feel like we have a truth frequency connected to our authenticity. There's no real right or wrong when it comes to who we are when we're authentic, but how we're processing information on the planet, how we're working together, the greater truths are that it's not going to work in these lower level mind like tactics of competition, belittling, ego, and that we have a lot to learn from each other to figure out a better way to communicate. And if we could just get to that place, then the information will be much more easily processed or discussed without it feeling threatening, you know, to the person who might not understand so-called conspiracy. The thing is, that word is just as bad as a lot of these words being thrown around. Like white privilege is a trigger word. Calling somebody a conspiracy theorist is a trigger word. It's very, you know, and so one has to stay in those upper areas and not be like, wait a second, how, you know, how can you call it that? Like, so, I mean, I'm trying to breathe through not being somewhat like, you know, because we're at this critical time on the planet, but it's like, it's okay. Because it is just a way to, you know, turn the other way. And it's not political. So if people could understand that those that talk about these sort of things that are also in the spiritual fields, it's because we love and we care. We're not trying to be right. It's because we're concerned and we want you to see things that are not obvious on the outside, but they are to us because it's hidden in plain sight. But it's really coming from love. Like this mission for all of us is coming from love. And if people knew that and could tell that or feel that energy signature, I think these conversations would go a lot better. I think they're seeing it through the lens of they're used to competition. They're used to winning. Yeah. And so, you know, I just hope to open the doorway for them to communicate on a higher level with me, because I don't, you know, and the hard part is I don't want to be sunk down to their vibration. If I notice my energy starting to sink, that's when it's got to be done. Take a breath, come back, maybe some other day, maybe not at all. But yeah, I know Patricia was going to ask a question, but any thoughts on that? Anybody?
You're very eloquent, and you know, a lot of times when you speak, it's really poetry. And I just want to add, truth doesn't have competition is a beautiful statement. And love, to set the, in a situation where you're one-on-one with a person or with family, whatever, to set the precedent that because there's love here, let's contain this conversation. It really calls people to their higher integrity. I mean, in the case of my relative, he said, you're right. Oh my God, you're right. Let's put it over there. Let's keep it out of the way. We don't agree. Fine. Let's make sure that it doesn't interfere with the other wonderful things that we share, because that's what matters. This will go away and families will be destroyed. Why? So truth has no competition is an expression that another one of your golden pearls that I hold close and agree with completely.
Oh, yes, cool. It's true. Truth stands on its own. And I find the people that suffer from the most derangement syndrome, whether it's Trump derangement syndrome or virus lockdown derangement syndrome or whatever it may be, those people are the ones that are not standing in truth, because they're so angry when they hear something that is opposing their paradigm. Those that stand with truth don't have derangement syndrome. Yes, there are some frustrated truthers out there because they can't wake up the sleeping masses and they're calling them sheep. But most of those individuals are not operating fifth dimensionally. When you are in that higher consciousness and you stand with truth, you are not getting angry with the other person's viewpoint. So when somebody comes to me with a different viewpoint and they're getting frustrated, and their family or a dear friend, I will say, what are we going to do here? You know, and they're surprised because they're waiting for me to say, do you know what? I've been wrong all these years and I agree with you. And they're not hearing that from me. So I then say to them, how are we going to come to an agreement here when, you know, I love you, you love me, we're family or we're friends, we don't want to fall out. What do you suggest we do? And let them decide how to you know, make that contract with me rather than me laying it out for them. It gives them the chance to think and think, well, yeah, because that breaks the program, because what it does is it puts them back into the relationship, because when they're caught in that dark matrix program, they're no longer your son or daughter or brother or sister or mother or father or friend. They're just an agent of the matrix, AI. When you remind them, I'm your best friend, I'm your mother, I'm your sister, I'm your daughter or whatever, then that breaks that matrix program, and they think, oh, their heart opens, and well, hopefully, you know, and they remember, oh yes, I am actually related to you. Or I mean, I've been lucky. I do have, you know, a few family members that are in the false narrative, and we have managed to come to agreements as much as possible, but the majority of my family were either already awake or have woken up since virus. My 2 daughters and their husbands have woken up exponentially in the last 3 months, and it's unbelievable to see the growth. And not only have they woken up to the dark plan and all of that side of things, they're waking up spiritually as well. So we're seeing them shoot through from 3rd and 4th dimensions into the 5th dimension, and I'm now having, you know, spiritual concepts being mirrored back at me from 2 daughters, 2 adult daughters that were, for all intents and purposes, more or less asleep back at the beginning of March. And that's beautiful, but that's not all of my family. There are others that are still in, you know, the false narrative. And I know that all starseeds and way showers and light workers are in this position. It's because this isn't just about the dark plan and the light plan and the black hats and the white hats and the fight in the 3rd dimension. This is a purging and a cleansing and a reconstruction that's taking place from much higher levels as well. So everyone is having to face the beliefs that they thought they had, the reality they thought was real, everything that triggers them. Why? So they're looking at traumas, everything, the work that we did to become to a place where we're able to be spiritual teachers, if you will. They are all going through that work now en masse. So there's multiple layers occurring right now, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's almost like a crash course in wake up time, right?
Totally. Yeah. So do you have a question?
And, you know, as you said, how beautiful that in the darkness of this whole virus thing, so many people are being awakened simply because of the absurdity and the intensity and the global impact of this thing. They're like, wait a minute here. Exactly. And so, you know, in a way, aside, I always tell people, let's not forget that Mama Earth is breathing big time. The animals are just rejoicing, and people are waking up from this. Everything has its curve, which is what I said at the beginning, right? Yes. Everything has its curve. And if we get millions more light workers out of this trauma, then we can go through this.
Do you have a question, Patricia? For us?
I have a question. I've got a few, yeah.
I realized I kind of asked 2 questions, so sorry about that, you guys. But
yeah, go ahead, because I was.
Oh no, you go. I definitely already did mine. Unless Magenta has one, but you said you do, right, Patricia?
Do you?
I don't think I have a question.
Okay.
You ask your questions, and let me be involved in the answers.
So you're saying you're passing it on, or?
Yeah, I don't have a question. Should I have one?
No. I mean,
anything we want to shift gears into before we close. What about you, Magenta? Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Oh gosh, I have so many questions that have been asked of me. You know, I've got sort of
I follow all your stuff.
I'm just trying to remember them all. I mean, obviously, I think the reason why we don't have questions, the 3 of us, particularly for one another, is we're all in our own power and our own knowing. And the questions we have, we are working with our own higher guidance system. I don't know. I wonder if, I mean, I know that, Patricia, you are with the Sirian High Council. And I'm with the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9, and obviously within the greater unity, these are the same forces with their own flavors. Who are your, Laura? What's your guidance system? Do you have a focus for your guidance system? Do you have a name? Are you with Arcturians or Pleiadians, or do you connect Or don't you give them names? That's the question I would have.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, it comes and it goes. I mean, like Guardian founder races that have these different groups like you guys are connected with. I sort of address it without having it too refined or focused on one thing. Stuff comes in like in the form of downloads and has been since I was a kid. And I know, there's guides and, things behind it. I've always resonated most with like Blu-ray consciousness and just the mother arc and the whole process of anchoring the feminine or the mother arc energy on the planet to ignite, our divine blueprint in balance, of course, with the masculine. And so I kind of see everything through that lens and how is that being achieved? Is that, and it's very similar to what I see with you guys. And that's why I'm so thrilled to be on this show with both of you. But yeah, it's even just weird to say even the word feminine anymore after the first part of our conversation. But yeah, it's kind of like, obviously there is a mother force that has been very compromised. When we look at the dark mother reversals and the Baphomet and all these different things that have siphoned and harvested our life force, like what are the mechanics or what are the things that need to happen in order to, correct this, which comes from us, but it's also cosmic and earthly events and things that relate to the ether and the 13th sign. I would say a lot of my language is like galactic astrology or zodiac because it gives a blueprint. So almost can explain some things that have been coming in intuitively. So I kind of bounce back and forth a bit.
Same really. I mean, I think that the White Wing Collective Consciousness of Nine, I don't know about you, Patricia, with the Sirian High Council, when they first came to me as that form, that's where I was at that time, expecting, a higher guidance system. Whereas now, I guess, I've kind of gone beyond that form. I still like it because I'm familiar with it. But everything Laura is saying, I think, is where I am as well. I just work with the 9 because of the familiarity and the geometry of it. And obviously, you, Patricia, have that Sirian energetic. And I think each of us as channels are pouring down these different frequencies, Sirian, Pleiadian, Arcturian, simply because we're going galactic and each one of us is holding the frequency. Every starseed is holding the frequency for an area of galactic consciousness, if you like. So,
yeah, and I think also there's also the fact that, over the years, I don't know how long you've been doing this work, but for me, it's been over 20 years. So over the years, downloading all of that incredible energy is constant imprinting the DNA, constant cellular memory, rejuvenation, new complexities within the DNA structure. The more you are able to hold, the more comes in, and to the point where I don't really feel like, okay, this is the Sirians coming through. It's just integrated.
Yes.
And and I think you all feel that same way, and I feel that in you both, which is why I'm so drawn to both of you.
Yes,
I see it in you. It's like this beautifully whole, integrated human lighthouse in both of you, grounded, strong. I don't care about gender. I don't care about race. I just see beautiful, grounded, galactic, stellar, earthbound women. And I love it. And I think that it transcends. It really actually transcends what group you're connected with. Yes. And also, I agree with you that they're all connected anyway. It's just a matter of some gaseous. I don't see layers when I talk about dimensions. I see interacting strands of gaseous consciousness, dimensional, vibrational patterns.
Yeah, and I definitely see just the pure direct connect and how much that's what you're a part of. It's a direct connect, and it brings that frequency in, and it actually burns through the net. The consciousness of it and the light of it is so strong that it pulls all that out of the way, and it begins to create a lot of corrections. I mean, these are massive codes and just frequencies. So it's like really amazing to watch and read. And thank you for the feedback too. But yeah. So I don't know, like Magenta, did you have a question? Because I could definitely come up with one. I know we'll probably close here soon, but any thoughts from either one of you before I might jump in and ask you guys something?
Yeah, to go on from what you were saying, it's not just about seeing. I feel you guys, and when I move into feeling your energetic, and I know that it's non-locational, and because you are both so similar to me energetically, we're in the same space energetically, and I feel both of you and that is unity. And the 9 came forward and said, these are the conversations you need to have. Because I was thinking, the reason why I was asking you about who are your guidance system and about the Sirians and the 9 is because it's about coming together as way showers and showing people, not just telling people. Yes, we need to talk about all the issues and the virus and the lockdown and the rayse and everything else and the kabball, but it's about showing people what unity is. And how I would show people is to say that right now I feel completely at one with you both. I feel your auric fields, with your own permission and your own open hearts, have merged with mine. And I feel the guardian races, and I feel the Sirian Council and the 9, and I feel Laura, and I feel Patricia and me, and we are then one, and you can feel it as an energy. That is the power, that is the unity that is going to change this reality, because that consciousness, even with 3 individuals, and we have people watching us, how many hundreds or thousands will watch us and share that? Then you take that consciousness, that's what's creating the timelines. That is what goes above that dark strategy. That is what moves us to the ascension timeline. People say to me, what can I do? What more can I do? This is what we do. It is a consciousness movement. And when we're in that place, it's no longer a war, it's no longer a battle, it's no longer polarity, it's connection with source. And when we can find that and the changes within the DNA that it creates and all the bliss, that creates the reality globally for us individually and globally. And when we do this en masse, and it doesn't need many, critical mass does not need many when you're in that zone. It's like warp speed, light speed creation. And that's what we're here to do.
And I have had such a response from our first interaction. This is the first with the 3 of us, and I'm sure it's going to be huge also, but the response to our dialogue together, the common comment was, I felt like I was with you. I can't explain what I felt. I felt like I was in the room. And I know somebody said, I know you weren't in the same room, but I was in your space. I was in that love. It was intense. I can't even stop thinking about it. So many people.
I know.
So, that what you're talking about, because, of course, I don't know about you, but I get all these rushes up and down my body nonstop.
Totally.
And, that they're able, it's able to transcend the video connection we have and branch out through the virtual reality, and people can feel it.
Yes.
That's how powerful it is. They can feel it and hold it. And that's what we're doing here. And we're doing wonderful work, and I celebrate you.
I celebrate.
And I celebrate you.
Oh my gosh.
I love you both so much.
I love you both so much. This is really, I feel so invigorated. And I know, it just couldn't have come at a better time. And what's so, amazing too, it's, this mind control and social engineering and how it keeps people at such a low level. It helps them to find, their center again. Because we're not telling anybody what to do or how to think. It is exactly how you described it. And that feeling of reconnection is a reunion, and we are returning to ourselves and then learning to come together, but we have to break the mind control to be able to come together in a healthy way. And so I really do feel that the transmissions that it provides helps really to ignite a person's own self-love too, because we're not in the self-identities that have been engineered and cast upon us. We're holding it for ourselves, and it's really about encouraging people to feel empowered and hold it.
Exactly, and they do. The common thread is this conversation filled me with hope. It filled me with inspiration. It's like, well, fantastic, because I don't care how much information one imparts. Do you feel me? Do you feel your own power from that? Do I fill your heart with love and hope? And if that is accomplished, then man, yes, 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 yes. And maybe we don't know the answer to the whatever, the end scheme, what's the plan? Who cares? Let's live it right now. Let's make it right now as powerfully, beautifully, strong as possible, knowing it's hard, and do it anyway, right? As hard as it gets, just be that strength, be that light, be a lighthouse is my message for everyone. And if you get attacked, push it back. You don't have to explain yourself, and push it back with that light. Just keep pushing it back. Yes. And boy, haven't we done that today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, really keeping those creative channels clear, because the AI or any kind of infection is infecting the creative channel. So we're, enabling the dark agendas that we don't want. When we come from a clear place and it clears our creative channels, there's nothing that can intrude in the manifestation of a more beautiful and better world.
Which is why they want us to be wearing masks, so we don't get that chi, and we don't, which is why I'm screaming about it. Take off your mask, breathe, bring in the chi, plump up your aura, and know that nothing can touch you because you're a sovereign being, period.
And that connection with the three of us and anyone who joins in doing this with the people that are around them or listening to this broadcast or however they're moving into that energy, it is an amplifier. It's an amplification.
Yes.
So if you can't raise to those higher galactic chakras, if you will, or that higher guidance system, you have an amplifier. It's like taking your mobile phone or your cell phone and charging it up, and you create the charge within. When you get there, you are in the moment. It doesn't matter what might come in the future or what has gone in the past. You're guided in that moment. You move into the synchronicity. The Nine said in one of the recent channelings, if we were to show you now, and this is pretty scary what they said, actually, the words, but not the energy. If we were to show you now what was coming in advance, you would think to yourselves, how could I possibly survive that? And you will not think that you will survive that. But if you go through this process in the moment, staying in that connection with that amplification, you will see in the moment exactly how you will survive it. Now, what that means, I have no idea. I just know the answer, and the safe zone is in that vibration. In the moment, you will know. Whatever it may be, you will know what to do. If you are in that vibration and you have that amplification, and the way to get it, you don't have to do it with other people like we are. We are amplifying our fields and merging our fields right now. You can do it with crystals. You can do it through food, yoga, yoga nidra, meditation, etc., etc. But you can do it through conversations like this and through connections this way. And anyone who watches this video will be able to feel that frequency because it's non-locational. They can draw it into themselves and hold. And I can feel everyone watching and listening. I can
remember also, I always love to end with this one important theme. This is a show. Never forget it. You knew what you were doing when you decided to come in, talking about honoring your soul integrity, right? You knew it. You planned it. You knew it was going to be crazy.
I'd have to
and
see
you
it
came
like
in
that.
anyway. And you had a mission. You might have forgotten what it is, but you came in anyway with a mission. And the less you allow the outer to distort you, the clearer you will get about what that is. But always remember, you're in a tube, baby. And on this end is brilliance. And on this end is brilliance. And you're just condensing energy through this tube, going through the drama. And then you will exit again into a higher state of being. So my suggestion is make sure you enjoy the ride because you chose to do it.
Yes.
Be empowered by the knowing of that. You chose to do it. How can you be not safe if you chose to do it? You chose when you were going to come in. You chose who your parents would be and where you're going to land. You, by proxy of that aspect of knowing that, you must have chosen when you're going out.
Exactly.
What's to be afraid of?
Laura, did you have another question? Because you did say you had one.
Oh no, I was just I mean, we're just so conversational, and it's an easier vibration anyway. I can't really think of any question, but yeah, just the stuff that we kind of bring out in each other is the flow I really love, and the fact that we did cover some questions in the beginning was really great. But yeah, it's just that polarity integration in the moment, and whatever challenges, whatever adversities. I mean, we're here for spiritual and soul development. There's sort of a metaphorical quality to some of these storylines. If we can see the deeper story though, and what these adversities can trigger, adversity can bring us closer to ourselves or further away. In those moments of fear where we want to give our power away because we don't think we can handle it, is in the same moment that we can say, actually, just like you were saying, it's built into me. The higher guidance, the intuition, the power and ability of the body to heal and transform and transmute and alchemize. We are made of that. We are reclaiming that. So every moment that we face adversity is an incredible opportunity, and we need to bless it. We need to not expect somebody else to do it for us, but we can walk together and have each other's backs and lift each other up and make sure that You know, we are aligning with the most benevolent parts of ourselves and not being fooled or tricked or played or duped anymore.
Exactly.
And allowing ourselves to push away those who are intent upon not resonating with that. Allowing ourselves to disallow that as part of our intent.
Before we close, shall we touch upon the highly controversial subject of Donald Trump, or should we save it for another time? Because I do have daily the same question again and again and again from different people saying, I love the things you say, Magenta, and many of you spiritual teachers all say the same things, and I love to listen to you, but the one thing I simply cannot understand, I can't get my head around, is why you think Trump is so amazing, and you think he's a savior, and you think he's Jesus, and you think that he's a hero, and which I don't, but people think that I absolutely hero worship him. I don't have a big photo of Trump downstairs that I'm praying to every morning and putting flowers down or anything. He's not my guru. But I do get asked this again and again. So I don't know whether you want to go there. Why do we, so many of us, so many psychics, empaths, intuitives, clairvoyants and channels, why do we see Trump as one of the good guys? And why are we so happy that he's the president? Even me, who's in the United Kingdom and not even in America and never even been to America in this life. And why do we want him so desperately to win the next election? Obviously, if there is one, I still have my doubts about that.
But I think it's a great question. I'm happy to cover that before we go.
Yeah.
You go ahead. I think Patricia raised, did you
I'd
raise your
like to
hand?
answer that question, and I'm going to say this. People are still completely focused on personality of leadership. And so we love Bill Clinton because he played the sax. We loved, you know, no need to go through them all. And they hate Trump because he's an orange man and he's got funny hair and he sounds like an idiot, yada, yada. And of course, the machine has been determined to put that out there through the media. But why do I stand behind Trump? I don't love him, but I love his actions. Number one, everybody that I'd like to see behind bars hates his guts. All of these people in the cabal are out to destroy this man.
Yeah.
So I take note of that. I took note of the fact that a long time ago he came out against vaccines, and he is standing in that truth right now. And he kept talking about, because I think one of the gravest things that's facing us right now is forced vaccination. So, you know, he's been constantly saying, we're looking at treatments too. Yeah, we'll get to the vaccines, but that's going to take a while. But we're looking at treatments, we're looking at cures, and he's coming out with the information about the cures. And of course, the media destroyed him on that. But needless to say, now UV lighting within the blood and within the body is being proven. So what I want to say to these people is, why do you love Trump so much if you're such a spiritual person when he's such an asshole? And my answer is, I don't look at the human being. I don't look at the persona. I think that he says a lot of stupid things to throw people off guard. I might be wrong. He might just be a hothead. But I do look at the policies. And what he does, I agree with. So at the moment, I'm with him on this. I also believe that before you start giving your guns away, let's make sure you don't have prisoners that are being freed from penitentiaries that are now being freed in California, New York, and whatever, out on the streets, armed to the tits. And maybe it's not a great idea that the guns go away. Maybe that's the only thing that's holding the government, the cabal, to any sense of barriers. But my answer to you, and then I'll shut up, is please, people, don't look at the personality of the man. Look at the actions, look at the policies, and think of the bigger picture of what is this man trying to accomplish. And when you've got people like George Soros saying, this man is a danger to the New World Order. I mean, what else do you need? George Soros has actually said that. This man is a danger to the New World Order. Do you need any more information than that, I ask?
It really is a danger to the New World Order. That is the
only thing is, and I love that.
Say that's true.
Exactly. And they know it. And for them to even announce it,
yeah,
please, people, if you really think I'm fanatic on one side of the coin, let me give you the link to where you hear it come out of the man's mouth.
Yeah, Wow, cool. I definitely have something to say on that. And then you're going to share a bit, right, Magenta? Or do you want to go first? Or
You can, or I will,
okay.
whatever.
Oh, this is such a big thing. I mean, I was just so glad when Hillary didn't win. I wasn't even really thinking about Trump. I mean, I knew him just like anybody else. Okay, he owns casinos and he's got a lot of money, but I just felt this warrior energy. But I wasn't like tuning into it too much because so much was going on, and it was just about just like hopefully deep state cabal members are not holding the position of presidency. That's all I could care about at the time, because I don't get too wrapped up in politics. I feel both sides are mostly compromised, and it's just. But then something just really kept getting my attention, and I would have dreams, and I know you guys have had dreams too, and something really got my attention in a way that like I was like, wow, and then I paid more attention, and it wasn't so much anything like Republican, Democrat, right or left. It had to do with, you know, deep state crimes against humanity and protecting our human liberties and doing what's right, knowing he's not owned by them, knowing that he's up against something that deserves absolutely all our support. I mean, this is such an unbelievable position that he's in. And the fact that like people can't see the bigger picture, fine. But it's the same thing we're dealing with this white privilege or racism, you know, thing, is that they're only looking at him based on, you know, his personality traits. It's like, seriously, can we get out of high school? It's like, it's not about clothes, hair, taking things out of context, putting one's foot in the mouth. Like, if we don't start to mature on a spiritual level to see the bigger picture, we're wrapped up in this lower, you know, drama and conflict that is so petty. It's like, I can't even believe what he's, you know, willing to take on. And I heard, yeah, he doesn't even, you know, get a paycheck. Yes, he's already got, you know, a ton of money, fine. But he could be retiring, he could be living the life, and he has chosen a position that I feel deserves ultimate support and compassion, regardless of his personality traits. He is not owned. He is not selling us out, and he's protecting us from mandatory vaccinations. He's up against the biggest, like, and sickest control forces and darkness that is more than anybody can, you know, possibly imagine. And we need to work, you know, together in a greater way. And if you don't like him, it's like, I don't know what to tell people, but to attack others or call us racist or think that it shows a lesser sort of spiritual disposition, or it contradicts what it means to be like more focused on the spiritual. I think you guys, you know, describe it real well, but yeah, for me, it's like, this is what it's going to take. This isn't the end all be all either. The structure of government's going to change. Different leaders are going to come forward, but more communities are going to be built, and people are going to step up as leaders. But to make this transition happen, and to make it happen effectively, people need to recognize that we are there needs to be a lot of gratitude that this man stepped in when he did, and he has been stopped around every corner. Impeachment, Russian collusion. I mean, it's so obvious that the things that they try and steer humanity to think about him through the fake media or the news, and the things that like they're trying to get rid of him over, are not even close to the crimes against humanity that these people are connected with. The sickest of crimes, and they're so afraid of being exposed that how could I not support this man? That's all I can say.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I think you've basically said everything that I would say. When it was me, obviously, as I said, I'm not in the US, but the reason why I've been following American politics, and particularly the ascension, the ascension, the election, because it's the ascension timeline, and the nine have told me repeatedly I mean, you asked Patricia how many years I've been doing this for. I started to communicate with you know, higher beings in 1993. I then moved into connection with the nine in the year 2000, and then I went public in 2008. So a long time, but they've been telling me about America and how pivotal America is, the US, the new Atlantis, all eyes on America. What happens in America affects the rest of the world, and I never understood what it meant, but I have past life connections with America, with with the US that are incredibly deep, and I had to work very, very hard to deal with those. So I'm so connected with the States because I've lived there in other lifetimes and have such clear memories. But this particular election, I thought, I'm not going to buy into it. I could see all these arguments going on sometimes on TV between Hillary Clinton and Trump, and it was just so horrible, and I just switched off, didn't tune in, just like Laura. It wasn't until after the election I thought, okay, I need to really, now it's been done, I need to look and see what's happened here, because obviously I'm going to get questions, and I know how important this is. I need to look. So I looked at Hillary Clinton first, and I thought, oh dear, oh dear. And I could see instantly, not only was she cabal, she wasn't just controlled or bribed. I mean, she was utterly part of the cabal, incredibly deeply entrenched, their girl, their princess, groomed from childhood to take the presidency, more so than her husband. You know, very, very entrenched within that cabal system, and honored within that cabal system. And the darkness around her that I saw, it was just, I could hardly bear to look at her photograph. So I thought, well, surely Trump can't be as bad. And when I looked at his photograph, and I just thought, what? He's not cabal. He's not even part of it. And I thought, hang on, I've got to look again. This can't be right, because I didn't think an independent person could win the presidency. I kept looking and looking, and I can recognize the cabal structure. It's a specific code within the matrix. Some of them have the pedophilia thing and the abuse thing, and others don't. They have different configurations, but I can see them, and there's nothing there. Yes, his personality, there's some personality flaws. You know, if I was to go out with him for the evening, you know, he might really annoy me with some of the things he might say, if I knew him as a friend. But when you're looking at him as a president, now, if you look at him as a president in a non-cabal controlled planet, he's utterly the wrong kind of person as a president. Of course he is. We need somebody of the light who's connected to all the dimensions, who's a true, genuine, honest leader of the heart, who is wise and all, you know, priestly and all the things we want. But this is a cabal-controlled planet, extremely so. So we have to look at the presidency in relation to where the planet is. And when I looked at him not being cabal, independent, not only was he independent, but he had his own, when I say agenda, it's not really an agenda, his own private strength that nothing could get past. I saw that he wasn't bribable. He wasn't blamable. He couldn't be influenced. He had this strong, almost narcissistic, this is who I am, America is mine, and this is what I'm going to do. And it's perfect for the job at hand, because no one else would be able to do the job unless they had that personality. So I saw all of this.
Exactly.
I did a video pretty much immediately after doing this photographic reading with him. But since that time, I have had dreams, and my dreams have got to the point where at first I was just seeing him, acknowledging each other, looking into his eyes, and he handed me these papers. But the most recent dream, I actually sat down and had a long conversation with him, and a proper audience with him, and with Melania as well. And that's the first time I've connected with her. Very personal, and not things I would actually talk about, because you have those same confidentiality agreements in the psychic realms as much as you do in the real world. But what I would say is, whilst there are flaws in his personality, they're no different to anyone else's flaws in their personality. We all have them. Now, what I see in him, and people who don't like him just will disagree, but when you're actually sat in a room with him in dream time and merging your matrix field with his, just like I am with you and with Melania, and looking at their relationship and everything, and his childhood and her childhood and how they came together and everything that shapes them as a person, when I look at all that evidence, that psychic empathic evidence, he is a good person. Yes, he shuts his heart down sometimes, but that is because he's attacked and he's shielding himself. But when he is able to move away from the constant shielding of relentless attack, he opens his heart, and he's actually a really lovely soul.
Yeah, I would like to say that, you know, we want to believe in an archetypal hero. We're waiting for the savior. We want archetypal archangel.
We are that.
The ultimate purity from a leader. And anything less than that is unacceptable unless you've got the media on your side.
Unrealistic in a cabal-controlled planet.
Right. But I think what I just want to add that what you do see with him is more and more every day, you can see his mission. You can see it. You can see that it transcends personal power. You can see that it transcends governing the country. You can see this man has a mission, and it is to stop the cabal. And I really believe that. And, you know, that's what I see. And I think he's going to do it.
And this is what, and people that are just really, you know, critical, which, you know, they've seen him in pictures with Epstein. There's been stories connected to him that have been investigated enough to make it clear that, okay, this could be some sort of plant or planted information, because the cabal would be using it to their benefit if some of these stories were true. But he's not on the flight logs, and there's a lot of different things that actually show that what people think he is, he's not. And there are a lot of distortions in the news. I mean, just even recently, just what we see in the news is not what he's saying on Twitter. They actually wanted to shut down his Twitter account. So, I mean, that's how much they want to silence the guy. And what's interesting is, yes, I mean, we're all mission orientated. We don't rely on something outside of ourselves, but people do want that. So I'm like, if you want to criticize, you know, Trump and hate Trump, or come after people that might have shown, you know, some support on a public level, get up and do it yourself. You know, be a leader, you know, stand up then. Quit sitting back and complaining about everybody. If you really think you have the answers, or you don't like the way it's being done, then get up off your bum and like put some videos out there, make something happen. You know, maybe it wouldn't be the position of the presidency, but the people that kind of sit back and criticize everybody that's putting their life on the line and doing everything they can for the human race, it's like, if you don't like the way it's being done, get up and do it yourself. Because people like you and all of us, we're not sitting around waiting for somebody else to do it. We've taken the reins. We're standing up. I don't rely on, you know, the president sees so much, but in this particular presidency and with everything changing and transforming, we need somebody in a position of power that can begin to collapse, you know, this parasitic system that, you know, we can't just love and light away with our wishful thinking. I mean, we need it on a ground level to begin to dismantle. And the thing is too, I've lost so many friends who've been like, wow, and I thought you were all about the divine feminine. You don't support Hillary, and you support some white narcissistic racist. And I'm just like, oh, that's hilarious. First off, you know, I can see a real woman and a real soul, and that, you know, Hillary is very compromised. But because they rely on the personality matrix, they want a woman to adhere to the fact that the women are going to support Hillary because they don't care who she is. They just want a female president. And that, again, is very lost in that superficiality that people need to move beyond. Because, you know, I'm the last person who's going to, you know, want to hang out with, you know, some crass sort of, you know, maybe, you know, it's inappropriate sort of lower male personality, but he's so much more than that. So I hope people drop the character judgments and we begin to go deeper, because it is absolutely stunting our growth, I feel. But at the same time, we're not going to, you know, those that are already in a different vibration will not get sunk by it, and we'll continue to hold the space till people are ready, and we'll all, you know, come together, you know, heart to heart, in our diversity, in our differences, with love, respect, and the integrity to harmonize together instead of be in this lower field of battle. So anyway, that's my last thing I wanted to say.
And I just want to close with the last thing I'm going to say is, to those same people, I suggest, have you got a better idea? Because your candidates on the other side are beyond ridiculous. You've got a blithering, open pedophile.
There's no competition. There never
I mean,
was.
you know, if you want to tell me that this isn't good enough, show me the best you can come up with. Because if this is it, babe, you don't have an argument, right? But yeah, let's hope. And then, of course, we'll know very soon. I personally think that Trump is going to sweep the election if there is one.
If there is one, do you? I mean, I don't feel it's set in the timelines that there will definitely 100% be an election on November the 3rd. I think it's wavering in the timelines.
I agree. Anything can happen.
Something yet to happen, something that is going to happen. As we know, we're moving forward in this whole unfoldment, and I don't think it's set. I think that if it does go ahead, I'm seeing a landslide victory for him, because of the light workers and the star seeds and the fact that they're holding that energy. And it isn't just light workers and star seeds. When I tune in on those that don't like him and hate him and all the Trump derangement, yeah, that's huge. But there's a whole other frequency that's so beautiful to tune in on when you want to take some empowerment yourself. You can draw from other humans that are incarnate on this planet, and I'm talking about the patriots. There are a lot of American patriots, and they're not just in America, they're all over the world, and there's loads here in the UK that know what we're saying about Trump, whether they're psychic or whether they've done the research or whether they follow Q or whatever the reason may be, how they've come to their conclusion. That patriotic stance of backing him is far bigger than anyone realizes. It's huge, and it's a beautiful energy, and that is the foundation. That's the true patriarchy. That's the true sacred masculine energy that's holding that space, and that's the foundation for the whole new earth reality that we're moving into. So we shall wait and see what actually unfolds in the physical reality. But I think we all, the three of us, are clearly sharing a vision that is shared by many others. And the vision we share is, it does look as though President Donald Trump is extremely pivotal. You know, he's not.
And it also looks like the cabal and the Democratic Party are self-destructing.
Yes, they're blowing themselves up by taking risks. And I think that one of the agendas they have, as they always blame others for what they are doing. So we've had the whole virus lockdown and the race. I'm thinking if they try to move the sex trafficking and the pedophilia onto Trump, which I think is a potential agenda, I think that's a very big mistake on their part, because I feel that he has a hand that he has not yet played. And if they try to come at him with that, he will play his hand and it will be the end of them. So they need to be very, very careful.
Yeah, he's got a Trump card.
For sure. For sure.
You got it. You can tell it, you know, it's that presence that he's got. It's like, go ahead, take your best shot.
And you and I spoke about Kaylee. We can't talk about Trump without mentioning Kaylee. This amazing divine feminine, and I'm going to use the word divine feminine more than ever after being told that I can't and shouldn't use it. And I'll tell you for why, because if you do not use the word feminine or masculine in your anchoring, you actually reduce the DNA reconstruction, because the DNA reconstruction is about the divine feminine and the sacred masculine. That's the left and right hemispheres of the brain. To deny the feminine is to deny the right hemisphere of the brain, and to deny the electromagnetic frequencies of the body. So absolutely. But Kaylee, what a powerful divine feminine goddess is she. I love her.
You know, I always thought about him. His Achilles heel is the media. He doesn't know how to deal with the media because they get to him. They get under his skin.
I think they get under.
And, you know, when he brought her in, it was because he realized it, because there was one of the many press conferences where he just lost it. And you know, immediately after that, Kaylee appeared on the scene, and she is breathtaking.
It's amazing.
Breathtaking.
What do you think of her, Laura?
I love her energy. Absolutely. I love. Oh man, the frequency behind her words, and just the shieldedness too, and just the I really I admire her greatly. Yeah, the way she just holds her ground, and that's what Trump is doing too,
and the way she protects him too.
Yeah,
I dig it. I don't follow that much. Like, I'm not one of those like keeping up with every little thing, but everything that I've seen, I'm just like right on.
Yeah. I must admit, I don't like to miss a press conference with Kaylee, because every single time she plays this little game and she wins and she walks away. She's like, thank you, shuts the button, walks away. And she's just,
But I love when she says, I'm going to leave you with some questions.
Fantastic.
Why weren't you asking these questions about, you know, and she just blasts them. And they're like, and then she says, thank you very much.
And how does she, and one of the worst things I saw recently, poor Trump, was he was signing something out in the open air, and he asked for silence from the press, and he went to sign, and they kept speaking. He said, please just silence, you know, why I signed. And then he went to sign it, which is a sacred act. And as soon as he was halfway into the signature, which he couldn't stop, one of the reporters then continued to start talking about unemployment rates in America and this, that, and the other. And he had to just continue. And I thought, you poor thing, the attacks are relentless. How is he dealing with these attacks? I mean, that's what I admire about him. I don't think he's a hero, and I don't think he's a savior. And as I said, I don't think he's Jesus, but I admire him greatly because he's being attacked relentlessly every day on every
24/7 on all
4 years.
levels.
And I think they should give him another 4 years. I don't think there should be an election. I think when the truth comes out, they should say, forget the election. His 4 years have actually been trampled on. So let's give him 4 proper years.
But it's going to be so much better when he sweeps it again.
Yes, it will.
So much better. And he will.
See us all cheering. I can see the starseeds cheering.
Yeah,
so something good and amazing is coming. But yeah, there's the dark hand being played at the same time. So it's about navigation, isn't it? It's about navigating through this energy.
It's about staying strong in your shield, emanating incredible light. Remember to be a lighthouse and know that you're a sovereign being. And then help everyone you can. And, you know, remember that the light wins this time. The light wins this.
Any last words, Laura, before we close and say goodbye? And then we must come back again, the 3 of us.
Oh, please. Yes. It's so energizing and wonderful. And I'm just so grateful. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And the light absolutely wins because, you know, unconditional love is there to help us to wash away the pain, the regrets, anything that people are trying to trigger as well. You know, just keep allowing that to just wash away with the unconditional love of source, with your own, you know, heart, and just know, you know, there's a lot of trickery. So protect your energy field, be the best of yourselves, know you're not alone. And this will continue to build the unity field and transmute the rest, and stand in our bravery and courage and missions and camaraderie. And I love you guys. Thank you.
I'm going to give that a thumbs up.
I don't know how to do it, so. Wonderful. Thank you. I am overjoyed. I can't wait till we're back together again. If we lived near each other, you'd never see the end of me.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
Thank you.
There's a reason why we don't. We have to live in our own separate areas so that we can be the light for that area. But there will come a time when all the starseeds, light workers and aware individuals can come together and live the way we are supposed to live, which is in complete harmony and joy and bliss and everything else. But thank you everyone for listening to us today. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. What should we call ourselves? Divine Feminine Goddess Trinity or something?
I like it.
Sure,
Divine Feminine Goddess Trinity. Woo, woo.
So thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you soon.